Welcome to the outer frontier, where power is measured not by intention, but by survival. For Admiral Zithra Keln of the Harmony Dominion 7th Armada, survival had never been in question. Not in 40 cycles of warfare, not across a dozen conquered systems. And certainly not today. Before her stretched the cold void of space, illuminated by the faint glow of distant stars and the overwhelming presence of her fleet. 400 warships, planet breakers, atmosphere burners, civilization enders. They floated in flawless formation, an iron constellation of dominance. Each vessel was a masterpiece of Harmony engineering, vast, armored, and armed with weapons capable of turning worlds into molten memory. Their combined firepower could erase a solar system's resistance in hours. And opposing them, 12 ships. Admiral Zithra's mandibles twitched in involuntary amusement. "Tactical," she said, her voice smooth with disbelief. "Confirm the sensor results." The bridge hummed as officers worked at their stations. A moment later, the answer came. Confirmed Admiral. 12 human vessels. No hidden signatures. No cloak support fleet. This appears to be their entire presence. Soft clicking laughter rippled across the bridge crew. 12. The largest human ship barely registered as a blip on comparative mass scans. 300 meters at most. Smaller than one of Zithra's auxiliary hangar bays. Their hulls looked crude, almost unfinished, as if patched together from industrial scrap rather than forged for war. "They drift like scavenger craft," one officer muttered. Zithra allowed herself a slow nod. "So this is humanity's answer to our claim over the Kepler expanse." The Kepler region was rich, dense asteroid belt heavy with rare minerals, enough to fuel Dominion expansion for centuries. The Harmony had declared ownership weeks ago. Most species had obeyed without protest. Humans, apparently, had not. "Open a communication channel," Zithra ordered. "Let us resolve this before they embarrass themselves further." The main hollow display shimmered to life. A human appeared, middle-aged, pale-skinned, short-cropped hair streaked with gray. His uniform was plain, devoid of ornate rank symbols or intimidation colors. His eyes, however, were sharp, calm in a way Zithra found faintly irritating. "This is Commander Elias Chun of the United Earth Expeditionary Ship Resolute," he said evenly. "Admiral, we're requesting dialogue regarding Kepler." Zithra tilted her head slightly. "Commander Chun, I am Admiral Zithra Keln of the Harmony Dominion. Surely your sensors are functional. You must see the imbalance." Chun nodded once. "Hard to miss. 400 warships sends a very clear message." "Then you understand," Zithra replied, amusement laced through her voice. "Withdraw. Kepler now falls under Dominion jurisdiction. You have 60 minutes. Silence lingered. Then Chin spoke again, his tone unchanged. "Admiral, may I ask you a question?" Zithra's mandibles stilled. "Proceed. Do you always bring an extinction-level armada to enforce mining rights?" The bridge went quiet. Zithra's eyes narrowed. "Be careful, human." Chin leaned slightly closer to the camera. "I'm perfectly calm. I just want you to understand something before decisions are finalized. And that would be, humans don't build ships to intimidate," Chin said. "We build them to function." Before Zithra could respond, alarm screamed across the bridge. "Tactical alert," an officer shouted. "Human vessels are changing configuration." The hollow display zoomed in. The 12 ships moved, not chaotically, not defensively, but with precision. Hull segments shifted and rotated, locking into new shapes. What appeared to be smooth, featureless plating unfolded to reveal recessed weapon arrays, spinal cannons, and complex sensor lattices. Those weren't communication towers. A technician whispered. "No," Tactical replied, voice tight. "They're targeting matrices." Data streamed across the screens. Power readings surged. Weapons charged. Shield harmonics stabilized. Then the analysis completed. The tactical officer swallowed. "Admiral, each vessel carries enough firepower to devastate a continental region. Their reactors are operating at efficiency levels we projected as impossible." Zithra stared, disbelief hardening into something colder. "They're too small," she said. That level of output violates known limits. Chen's voice returned, calm as before. Mass is wasteful in space, Admiral. Humans learned that lesson early. Every gram must earn its place. The 12 ships completed their maneuver, forming a rotating three-dimensional lattice, angles overlapping, firing arcs intersecting, a geometry designed not for spectacle, but annihilation. We've been observing your fleet for 3 weeks, Chen continued. We know your shield cycles, your response times, your preferred engagement ranges. Zithra's blood ran cold. Then Chen spoke her name, her full name, her service record, her victories, her mistakes, details that were sealed within Dominion Command archives. Our doctrine is simple, Chen said. Know your enemy before the first shot is fired. The bridge was silent. Admiral, Tactical whispered, their formation nullifies our numerical advantage. If they fire first, we lose. Chen paused. But we didn't come to fight, he said. Zithra exhaled slowly. Then why are you here? To offer partnership, Chen replied. Kepler is vast. We share resources. We trade technology. Everyone benefits. And if we refuse? Chen smiled just slightly. Then the galaxy learns why humans rarely need large fleets. Admiral Zithra Keln had faced extinction weapons before. She had ordered orbital purges, sanctioned planetary sieges, and watched entire species kneel beneath the Dominion banner. Fear was a familiar tool, one she wielded expertly. But what she felt now was something different. Uncertainty. The 12 human ships rotated slowly, almost lazily, yet every motion was precise. Their formation wasn't rigid like Harmony battle lines. It flowed, adjusting angles, recalculating vectors, continuously adapting. The tactical displays struggled to keep up, predictive models recalibrating every second. Admiral, Tactical said quietly, their formation isn't offensive or offensive. It's optimal. Zithra's mandibles flexed. Explain. They position themselves so that any one of their ships can support the others instantly. No blind spots. No wasted coverage. If we engage, every ship we lose increases their relative efficiency. Zithra clenched her claws against the command rail. Centuries of Harmony doctrine emphasized overwhelming force. You crushed resistance with numbers, size, spectacle. It worked because fear broke enemies long before weapons fired. But these humans hadn't flinched. Commander Chen's image remained on a hollow display, his posture relaxed, his expression unreadable. He wasn't bluffing. That much was clear now. You said partnership, Zithra said carefully. Yet you arrived with weapons primed and firing solutions locked. Chen nodded. Preparedness is not hostility, Admiral. It's responsibility. Responsibility? One of Zithra's officers snapped. You trespass into Dominion claim space and call it responsibility? Chen's gaze shifted, focusing directly on the speaker. We entered disputed territory after your claim violated 3 interstellar resource accords. The officer froze. Zithra's eyes widened slightly. Those accords do not apply to the Dominion. They do, Chen replied calmly, if you want continued access to non-Dominion trade routes. That landed harder than any weapon. Trade was the lifeblood of the Harmony expansion. Their fleets conquered, but their economy relied on exchange, materials, technology, labor. Being isolated would cripple them far faster than losing a battle. You planned this, Zithra said slowly. Yes. The simplicity of the answer unsettled her more than arrogance ever could. We anticipated resistance, Chen continued. We anticipated intimidation. What we didn't anticipate was how close your response would be to our projections. He gestured off-screen. Data flooded the Harmony bridge. Charts, models, simulations. Dominion fleet movements mapped with terrifying accuracy. Engagement scenarios played out in accelerated time. Every outcome ended the same way. Human victory. Total. Silent dread spread across the bridge. Officers exchanged glances, their confidence eroding with every projection. How long? Zithra asked. Chen tilted his head. How long what? How long until our fleet is combat ineffective? Chen didn't hesitate. 11 minutes. The bridge went deathly still. That's impossible, Tactical whispered. 400 ships. Numbers matter less than efficiency, Chin replied. Your ships are powerful, but they're built for intimidation and endurance. Ours are built for decisive engagements. Zithra straightened. You expect us to accept humiliation, to share territory we claim by right of conquest. Chen's expression softened, not with sympathy, but with understanding. Admiral, humanity spent most of its history on the losing end of conquest. We learned early that survival isn't about pride. It's about outcomes. And what outcome do you seek? Zithra demanded. Stability, Chin said. Profit. And a precedent. Zithra's eyes narrowed. A precedent? That humanity doesn't need to dominate space to protect its interests. She considered that. If the galaxy learned that humans could dismantle fleets 1/10 their size, the balance of power would shift overnight. Species that relied on intimidation would hesitate. Diplomacy would suddenly carry weight. You're changing the rules, Zithra said. We already did, Chin replied. Minutes passed in silence. Zithra glanced at her fleet. 400 symbols of Dominion supremacy, and then at the 12 human ships, quiet and lethal. Lower weapons readiness, she ordered softly. A gasp rippled across the bridge. Admiral, Tactical began. Now. One by one, Harmony weapon systems powered down. Shields remained active, but the message was clear. Chen inclined his head. A wise decision. This is not surrender, Zithra said sharply. No, Chen agreed. It's negotiation. Very well, she said. We will discuss shared operations in the Kepler expanse. Excellent, Chen replied. Our economic delegation will transmit terms. As the channel closed, Zithra sagged slightly into her command throne. She had not lost a battle, yet she had never felt so defeated. Later, in her private log, she recorded a single observation. Human fleets are not designed to conquer space. They are designed to make conquest obsolete. The first shockwave didn't come from weapons fire. It came from silence. Across the Kepler expanse, long-range sensors belonging to neutral observers, merchant guilds, and rival empires recorded the impossible. 400 Harmony warships lowering their weapons in the presence of 12 human vessels. No battle. No retreat. Just compliance. Within hours, encrypted data bursts spread across the known systems. Analysts replayed sensor footage frame by frame, trying to understand what they were seeing. Power signatures. Formation geometry. Energy efficiency ratios that defied accepted naval physics. The conclusion was unanimous. Humanity had not bluffed. They had calculated. At the Harmony capital world of Virex Prime, the reaction was immediate and explosive. The High Conclave convened an emergency session, its vast chamber filled with the clicking tension of political predators sensing blood in unfamiliar waters. Hollow projections of the Kepler encounter floated above the central dais. Admiral Zithra exceeded her authority. One counselor snapped. She ceded Dominion space without firing a shot. She preserved 400 warships. Another countered. You've seen the projections. Projections, a first snarled. Made by human intelligence. How do we know they weren't fabricated? A third voice cut through the argument, calm and cold. Because our own analysts independently confirmed them. Silence fell. Screens shifted, displaying Harmony simulations run, using Dominion tactical models. Every scenario ended the same way. Cascading losses, command disruption, fleet annihilation within minutes. The humans didn't outgun us, the analyst continued. They outthought us. That was harder for the Conclave to accept and defeat. Meanwhile, light years away, Commander Elias Chin stood in the observation bay of the Resolute, watching the Harmony fleet maintain a respectful distance. The Kepler asteroids glitter beyond, untouched and full of promise. Galactic channels are lighting up, his operations officer reported. Everyone wants to know what happened. Chin nodded. Let them speculate. Some are calling it the Kepler standoff, she added. Others a silent defeat. Chin allowed himself a faint smile. Names don't matter. Memory does. Human leadership had anticipated this moment. For decades, Earth had avoided grand displays of power, content to be underestimated. Their fleets were small by design, not because they lacked resources, but because restraint was strategic camouflage. Now, the galaxy was learning why. Back on Virex Prime, Admiral Zithra was summoned before the conclave. She stood alone in the chamber, her posture rigid, her expression unreadable. "You defied Dominion tradition," the High Speaker accused. "I preserved Dominion power," Zithra replied evenly. "You allowed humans to dictate terms." "No," she said. "I prevented humans from dictating consequences." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Zithra activated her personal log, projecting classified sensor data. These ships, small as they appear, operate at efficiency levels we cannot replicate. Their doctrine prioritizes information dominance. They knew us better than we knew ourselves. "You sound impressed," a counselor hissed. "I am," Zithra admitted, because fear did not control them. Discipline did. The High Speaker leaned forward. "And what do they offer?" "Share extraction rights, technology exchange, joint security patrols." The chamber erupted again. "Insanity! Collaboration invites weakness." Zithra raised her voice. "Ignorance invites extinction." That silenced them. Elsewhere, the consequences continued to ripple. Minor species who had long endured harmony and intimidation began reaching out to Earth. Trade envoys, security inquiries, quiet requests for protection. Human diplomats responded carefully, never boasting, never threatening, just listening. In the shadowed halls of rival empires, admirals recalculated their doctrines. Massive fleets suddenly seemed inefficient, expensive, vulnerable. A single question echoed across war colleges and command centers alike. How many ships do we really need? On Earth, the United Systems Council reviewed Chen's after-action report. There were no celebrations, no triumphant speeches, only quiet satisfaction. "We achieved the objective," the council chair said. "No casualties, no escalation." "And a permanent shift in perception," another added. Chen stood at attention. With respect, this was only the opening move. The chair nodded. "We know. The galaxy now sees us clearly." "What happens next?" a counselor asked. Chen's gaze hardened slightly. "Next, they decide whether humanity is a partner or a problem." Back in the Kepler expanse, Admiral Zithra watched human and Harmony engineers begin coordinated operations, side by side, uneasy but functional. She activated her private log once more. Humans do not conquer through fear. They conquer through inevitability. She closed the file and looked toward the distant human ships, still only 12. For the first time in her career, Zithra understood the most dangerous truth in the galaxy. Power did not need to announce itself. The galaxy assumed humanity's restraint was mercy. It was wrong. Restraint, for humans, was discipline born from history. Inside the Resolute, Commander Elias Chin stood before a secure briefing room filled with senior officers, fleet architects, intelligence directors, and strategic planners. The doors sealed, encryption fields activating as the last system locked down. "This meeting never happened," Chin began. No one argued. A hologram flickered to life, displaying a schematic of the 12 ships currently stationed in Kepler. On paper, they looked insignificant. Light hull mass, compact frames, minimal external weaponry. Then the layers peel back. Hidden reactor cores, redundant power loops, folded weapon spines nested within structural supports. Every system served at least 3 functions. Human naval philosophy rejects singular-purpose design, the lead engineer explained. Every component must justify its mass. A slide shifted to historical footage. Earth's early space conflicts. Clumsy ships, oversized hulls, catastrophic failures. "We learned the hard way," Chin said quietly. "In our early wars, bigger ships made better targets." Silence followed. Another image appeared. Classified casualty projections from first contact scenarios. Humanity had simulated defeat hundreds of times before ever winning a single engagement. "Our doctrine is simple," Intelligence Director Halvorsen said. If conflict is inevitable, end it fast. If it's avoidable, make it unnecessary. The screen shifted again, this time to psychological profiles of known galactic powers. Harmony intimidation relies on spectacle. Halvorsen continued. Remove the spectacle and their advantage collapses, which is why we showed them nothing, Chen added, until they forced us. Back in the Kepler expanse, Harmony engineers struggled to reconcile human technology with Dominion manufacturing logic. Human systems were compact, modular, and unervingly efficient. How do you prevent thermal overload? One Harmony technician asked. We don't, a human engineer replied. We redirect it. To where? The human smiled faintly. Where it's useful. Admiral Zithra observed these interactions from a distance, her mind racing. Dominion engineering prioritized durability over adaptability. Human ships felt alive by comparison. She approached Chen during a scheduled coordination review. You planned for this outcome long before Kepler, she said. Yes, Chen replied. Why not reveal your strength earlier? You could have claimed entire sectors uncontested. Chen met her gaze. And become the galaxy's next empire? Zithra paused. Is that not the goal of every spacefaring power? No, Chen said. Empires collapse under their own weight. Humanity learned that lesson before we ever left our planet. Zithra studied him. Then what do you want? To choose when we fight, Chen answered, and when we don't. Elsewhere, rumors spread. Some claimed humanity possessed hidden armadas. Others whispered of superweapons folded into subspace. The truth was simpler and more frightening. Human fleets were small because they didn't need to be large. In a neutral system far from Kepler, a coalition of minor species convened secretly. For centuries, they had been exploited by larger powers, their resources taken, their voices ignored. Now, they debated a radical idea. What if we invite human oversight? One delegate suggested. Protection without conquest? Another asked skeptically. Or conquest disguised as cooperation? A third warned. But the data spoke louder than fear. Human engagements ended quickly. Civilian casualties were minimized. Infrastructure was preserved. They don't take worlds, the first delegate said. They stabilize them. Back on Earth, the United Systems Council reviewed long-term projections. Humanity's influence was spreading, not through territory, but trust. Are we prepared for the backlash? One counselor asked. Chen answered from a secure link. There will be resistance. Those who rely on fear will feel threatened. And if they attack? Chen didn't hesitate. Then restraint ends. In the Kepler expanse, Admiral Zithra recorded another private entry. Human power is not in their weapons, but in their patience. And patience, once exhausted, is catastrophic. She closed the log as alerts chimed. An incoming transmission marked high priority. Unidentified fleets were mobilizing on the frontier. The galaxy had noticed, and not everyone was willing to accept the new balance of power. The alert reached Kepler at 0300 ship time. Unidentified fleet movements. Multiple jump signatures. Vector analysis suggested convergence. Not toward Harmony space. Toward the humans. Commander Chen stood on the bridge of the Resolute, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on a tactical projection. Red markers bloomed across the display. Dozens of them. Composition? He asked. Operations replied. Mixed coalition. At least 5 species. Heavy cruisers, carrier platforms, and improvised weapon barges. Chen exhaled slowly. They're afraid. Or opportunistic, Tactical added. They may see this as their one chance before humanity expands further. Admiral Zithra joined the bridge moments later, her presence tense. This is not Dominion action, she said immediately. The Conclave has not authorized aggression. I know, Chen replied. This is fear acting without permission. The Coalition fleet dropped out of jump space at extreme range, far enough to avoid immediate engagement, close enough to send a message. A transmission followed. The holo display filled with fractured imagery, multiple species crowded into a shared command chamber. This is a unified demand, a voice declared. Human forces are ordered to withdraw from the Kepler expanse immediately. Chun tilted his head. By what authority? By collective security. The voice replied. Your presence destabilizes a region. Zithra's mandibles clicked sharply. You destabilized nothing. They ended a conflict without bloodshed. Silence, Dominion. The voice snapped. You have already humiliated yourselves. Chun raised a hand, stopping Zithra before she could respond. Let's be clear, Chun said calmly. We are conducting lawful operations under mutual agreement. Agreements made under coercion are invalid. The coalition voice countered. Chun leaned forward slightly. Admiral Zithra was not coerced. She was informed. The coalition commander hesitated. That distinction matters, Chun continued. We are not here to dominate, but we will not retreat because others feel uncomfortable. Silence stretched. Then the coalition spoke again. Withdraw, or we will remove you. On the bridge, Harmony and human officers exchanged looks. Zithra whispered, They don't understand what they're threatening. Chen's jaw tightened. No, they don't. He straightened. Final response. The holodisplay focused solely on Chen now. Humanity has avoided escalation at every opportunity, he said. We offered partnership. We accepted compromise. This is your chance to do the same. And if we refuse? Chen's eyes hardened, not with anger, but resolve. Then this will be the shortest war in your history. The transmission cut. Alarms flared. Coalition weapons charging. Tactical shouted. They're targeting our formation. Zithra stepped forward. Chun! He raised his hand. Hold position. No preemptive fire. The 12 human ships adjusted formation subtly, tightening their lattice. Energy levels spiked, yet no weapons discharged. Commander, Tactical said urgently, we are well within engagement thresholds. I know. The coalition fired first. A barrage of plasma lances and kinetic slugs tore through space toward the human formation. Chen's voice was calm. Defensive protocols. Phase 1. The human ship shimmered. Incoming fire bent. Not stopped, but redirected. Energy dispersed along invisible fields, bleeding harmlessly into space. Kinetic rounds lost coherence, shattering before impact. The coalition paused, stunned. Phase 2, Chen said. The human ships moved. Not forward, not back. They rotated. Angles shifting with mathematical precision. Targeting locks snapped into place across the coalition fleet. Chen spoke once more. Ceasefire. This is your only warning. The coalition hesitated, then fired again. Chen closed his eyes briefly. Phase 3. Light erupted. Not explosive. Not chaotic. Surgical. Human weapons struck command ships first, disabling reactors, severing communications, neutralizing weapon controls. Carriers went dark. Cruisers spun helplessly as systems failed. No hull breaches. No casualties. Within 90 seconds, the coalition fleet was drifting, alive, intact, and powerless. Silence returned. Chen opened a channel. You are defeated, he said evenly. No ships destroyed. No lives lost. You will withdraw. The coalition commander's voice trembled. What are you? Chen didn't answer immediately. Then he said, tired of being underestimated. The transmission ended. Admiral Zithra stared at the projection of immobilized fleets. You could have annihilated them, she said quietly. Yes, Chen replied, but then they'd fear us. And now, Chen watched the drifting ships. Now they'll remember us. In the aftermath, news spread faster than ever before. Human restraint had limits, and the galaxy had just found them. The coalition's defeat did not echo across the galaxy as a roar. It spread as a whisper far more dangerous. Within days, independent observers confirmed impossible. A multi-species fleet neutralized in under 2 minutes, without a single ship destroyed and without a single confirmed casualty. Systems disabled, command hierarchies severed, entire armadas rendered irrelevant by precision alone. The old powers panicked. Empires built on intimidation had always relied on one core assumption. that fear worked faster than reason. That assumption was now cracked. On Virex Prime, the Harmony High Conclave reconvened in emergency session for the third time in a single cycle. This time, the chamber felt smaller, the projections heavier. They didn't destroy them, one counselor said quietly. They controlled them. That's worse, another replied. Admiral Zithra stood once again before the conclave, her voice steady. The humans demonstrated something we lack, she said. Selective dominance. Explain, the High Speaker demanded. They choose how their enemies lose, Zithra replied. Not whether. That distinction chilled the chamber. Across the frontier, lesser empires began pulling fleets back toward their core worlds. Patrol routes were shortened. Expansion plans quietly shelved. Massive warships, once symbols of prestige, suddenly looked like liabilities. In war colleges, instructors rewrote doctrine overnight. In intelligence agencies, analysts reclassified humanity from regional curiosity to strategic constant. And on Earth, the United Systems Council watched it all unfold in silence. We didn't fire a single lethal shot, one counselor said. And yet the balance has shifted. Chin stood at the center of the chamber, hands clasped, expression grave, because power isn't measured in destruction anymore. It's measured in control. But this creates a vacuum, another warned. Empires retreating leave instability. Yes, Chin agreed, which is why the next phase begins. Across dozens of systems, encrypted invitations were sent, not ultimatums, not treaties of submission, offers, human-led security zones, limited, transparent, voluntary, no permanent occupation, no resource seizure, mutual defense, rapid response mediation, shared intelligence. The response was overwhelming. Worlds long bullied by louder neighbors sign on within hours. Trade lanes stabilized. Piracy collapsed almost overnight. Human ships, still few in number, appeared only when needed, solving conflicts before they ignited, neutralizing threats before they grew teeth. They don't rule, a merchant guildmaster observed. They manage outcomes. Not everyone was pleased. In the shadows of unaligned space, the remnants of intimidation empires gathered. Admirals who had built careers on fear now found themselves obsolete. One such gathering took place aboard a heavily armored flagship, far from recognized borders. This cannot stand, snarled a warlord whose empire had lost 3 client systems in a week, without a single human shot fired. They're dismantling us without war. Then we force one, another replied. Plans were made. Secretly, desperately. Back in Kepler, Admiral Zithra walked the Human Harmony Joint Operations deck, watching officers from once rival species work side by side. You've undone centuries of power structures, she said to Chun. Chin didn't look up from the display. No, we expose their fragility. And what happens when they strike back? Chin finally met her gaze. Then the galaxy sees the difference between restraint and weakness. As if summoned by his words, an alert chimed classified priority. Zithra's mandibles tightened. That was fast. Chin read the data stream, jaw setting. Multiple unauthorized fleet mobilizations, he said. Deep space. Coordinated. War, Zithra whispered. Chin shook his head. No. A lesson. He issued a single order. Deploy observers. Zithra blinked. Observers? Yes, Chin said calmly. Let them see what happens next. Across the void, human ships repositioned, not forming armadas, not massing force. Instead, they spread out, each vessel a node in a vast, invisible web. For the first time, the galaxy began to understand the truth. Humanity did not need to be everywhere. They only needed to be aware. Zithra recorded one final entry that cycle. Loud empires fall because they mistake fear for strength. Humans are quiet because they already know they are strong. The next confrontation would decide everything. The old powers made one final mistake. They believed humanity's restraint was exhaustion. In the dark reaches beyond recognized space, a coalition of warlords, ex-admirals, and displaced empires assembled what they believed to be an unstoppable force. Stripped of ceremony and diplomacy, it was raw aggression. Ships packed with oversized weapons, experimental reactors, and crews promised glory or oblivion. They called it the Restoration Fleet. Its goal was simple: strike a human security zone, shatter the illusion of control, and remind the galaxy that fear still ruled the stars. They chose the wrong target. The system of Argent Reach was small, strategically unremarkable, exactly why humans had designated it as a low-profile mediation hub. No massive stations, no visible defenses, just 3 human ships. The Restoration Fleet jumped in with overwhelming force. Targets confirmed. Their flagship commander barked. Open fire. Total saturation. The first volley was apocalyptic. Energy beams capable of cracking moons, kinetic rods screaming through vacuum with unstoppable momentum. On the human ships, alarms remained silent. Commander Chen watched from the Resolute, eyes steady. "Phase 0, he said softly. The space around Argent Reach shifted. Not visually, not immediately, but sensors across the Restoration Fleet began to fail. Targeting solutions unraveled. Navigation data contradicted itself. "What's happening?" a warlord shouted. "Sense interference." "No, it's not interference," a technician stammered. "It's prediction failure." The human ships hadn't blocked attacks. They had anticipated them. Human systems were not reacting. They were executing pre-calculated outcomes. Every possible attack vector had already been mapped, countered, and neutralized before the first shot was fired. "Phase 1, Chen said. Human ships moved, not as individuals, but as thought made physical. Micro-adjustments altered gravitational profiles. Weapon trajectories bent subtly, missing their targets by fractions of a degree that might as well have been kilometers. The Restoration Fleet panicked. "Fire again." They did, and again. Nothing landed. Phase 2. The human ships emitted pulses, not destructive, but informational. They flooded enemy systems with perfectly accurate data. Too accurate. Enemy computers overloaded trying to reconcile truth with chaos. Reactor safeties disengaging. Power spikes across all decks. "Command, we're losing synchronization." Phase 3. Human weapons activated. Not to destroy hulls, but to sever coordination. Flagships lost command authority. Fleet hierarchies collapsed into isolated confusion. One by one, ships went dark. Not disabled. Disconnected. In less than 5 minutes, the Restoration Fleet ceased to exist as a coherent force. Chen opened a system-wide channel. "This is Commander Elias Chun of the United Earth Systems," he said. "You came to remind the galaxy that fear rules space." Silence answered him. "You failed," Chen continued, "because fear only works when it's unpredictable." He paused. "We are predictable. We will always act to end wars before they begin. One remaining flagship, barely functional, managed to transmit." "Why?" the warlord demanded. "You could rule everything. Why stop?" Chen's reply was immediate. "Because ruling creates enemies. Stability creates neighbors." The transmission cut. Across the galaxy, observers watched the data in stunned disbelief. No heroic last stand. No climactic explosion. Just inevitability. Admiral Zithra, observing from Kepler, felt something she had never experienced in battle. Relief. "They didn't even try to win," she whispered. Chen's voice came through the secure channel. "They never had a chance to lose." The Restoration Fleet's collapse marked the end of an era. Empires dissolved, not in fire, but irrelevance. Borders softened. Negotiation replaced intimidation. Humanity didn't claim territory. They claimed time. Time for conflicts to cool. Time for diplomacy to work. Time for the galaxy to adapt. As Chen reviewed the final reports, a junior officer asked quietly, "Sir, what if someday the galaxy turns on us?" Chen considered the question carefully. "Then," he said, "we'll already know it's coming." The galaxy did not change overnight. It settled. Trade routes stabilized as patrol fleets quietly dissolved. Borders once enforced by intimidation faded into administrative lines. Military budgets shrank, not because weapons were obsolete, but because escalation no longer paid dividends. Humanity never declared victory. They didn't need to. Years after the Kepler incident, historians would struggle to define the exact moment power shifted. Some marked it at the silent standoff, others at the coalition neutralization. A few argued it happened long before, when humanity decided not to be feared. Admiral Zithra Keln retired from active command 2 cycles later. Officially, it was her choice. Unofficially, the Dominion needed a scapegoat for a universe that no longer bent to threats. In her final address to the Harmony Naval Academy, she spoke without bitterness. "We believed power was loud," she told the assembled cadets. "That strength demanded spectacle. Humans taught us the opposite." She paused, mandibles tightening. True power does not announce itself. It waits. Her lecture was archived and quietly shared far beyond Harmony space. Commander Elias Chun declined every promotion offered to him after the Restoration Fleet's collapse. He transferred to strategic advisory, preferring quiet rooms to bridges and simulations to ceremonies. When asked why, he answered simply, "My job was never to win wars. It was to prevent them." Human security zones became something new in galactic history. Not alliances, not empires, but stabilizers. Systems entered willingly and left freely. No permanent garrisons. No forced ideology. Just one rule. No first strikes. The rule was tested countless times. It never broke. One final document circulated among high command circles across the galaxy. Its origin was classified. Its authorship unofficially attributed to humanity's early strategists. It contained a single paragraph. "We do not seek control. We seek predictability. When conflicts can be anticipated, they can be ended without bloodshed. When threats rely on fear, they collapse under understanding. We will always act last, and we will always be ready first." The document was nicknamed the sentence, because once read, no admiral ever forgot it. In a quiet observatory orbiting Earth, Chen stood alone, watching stars drift past the viewport. The galaxy felt smaller now, not conquered but connected. A junior analyst approached hesitantly. "Sir," she said, "do you think peace will last?" Chen didn't answer immediately. "Peace," he said at last, "isn't something you win. It's something you maintain." She nodded and left. Chen remained, staring into the dark. Human fleets were still small. They always would be, because humanity had learned the most dangerous truth of all. You don't need to rule the galaxy. When the galaxy already knows what happens if you don't need to,